Hey everybody, thought I would do a thought of the day video. I've had this thought that's kind of been like bouncing around in my head and my heart. I don't know, for a few months now. And I thought, well, let's get that out on a video. Let's take that thought and make it the thought of the day. Um, and the thought of the day is about disagreement. We have a weird relationship in our culture, in the world we live in today, with disagreement. And um, I don't know. I'm no sociological expert. I'm probably too old to understand the world of social media as well as I like to think I probably do. But we have a weird relationship with disagreement. Like I don't know if we expect disagreement as much as we should. Because we should expect disagreement. We should expect that we're going to disagree with a lot of things in life. That should be like normal. Like disagreement should be a very normalized experience for us. And yet there's something that we like in this world of social media. Something happens where we feel like we have to voice our disagreements. Like we have to acknowledge it. We have to make sure that it's heard. And there's a few things that could be going on there. Number one, part of the reason we do this could be that we live in a world where we just don't feel like we're heard and we're seen. And everything's going on around us, and we're really bad at showing empathy. And so, like, we're voicing these disagreements because we want to be seen, not in like a self-promoted way. We just want to be like acknowledged and validated, and like and there's something social media provides what we think is this ability to just like post a comment or create a post or a meme or a TikTok video, and then we can be seen. Like, and I don't mean seen in like a selfish, self-aggrandizing way. I mean like we feel like words like lonely are coming to mind. Words like unacknowledged, insignificant, like our fears and insecurities come out in this way. That could be a part of it. And that's worth noting because rather than just belittling the relationship we have with social media and our behavior therein, we should be stepping back and going, let's make a more empathetic world. Let's make a world where we see others more readily and acknowledge them and listen to them and seek to understand them. Forget about agreement or disagreement. Let's just make a world where we get to like literally see people and say, I see you and I care about you. And far beyond my agreement or disagreement with your thoughts or your convictions or the things that you're sharing or wearing, or like beyond that, I just see you as a human being and I acknowledge you and I compassionately witness your presence. I mean, I don't mean that. I'm not trying to be funny. We're just not very good at being empathetic. And maybe that's what contributes to this world where like we have to comment on everything. And then there's the part of it where it is about self-aggrandizement. It is about being seen. Sometimes it's that. Sometimes it's not. Maybe most of the time it's not. But then there are times where it is. Somebody commented on something recently, and it was just to voice their disagreement with said person's material. And it was like, that could have been shared personally. You could have sent a direct message to them, an email. Like if it was important for you to communicate to that person, you could have done that. And that would have been far more appropriate, would have been far more gospel, like kingdom centric, That would have been more Jesus-like behavior. It was definitely done within a Christian context, so it's all the more frustrating. Um, you could have just had that conversation one-on-one. That's how Jesus invites us to live, and to, like, if that conversation needed to happen, it could have happened between person to person. But instead it was done in public so that everybody else could see it. And it was purposely done that way for that reason. And maybe maybe that person consciously did that. Maybe they subconsciously did it, but they definitely did it for the purpose of being seen, so that they could, like, everybody else could witness them, like, slamming this person. So that's weird. It's inappropriate and honestly has no business in, like, the Christian life. Like, we shouldn't interact with anybody that way, let alone our own brothers and sisters in Christ. Then there's, I don't know, then there's something else. Not option A or option B. There's this other thing where we feel like if I disagree, I have to let you. We don't have to let people know when we disagree. In fact, disagreement should be such a normal experience that we should know what it's like to internally see something, hear something, disagree with it fundamentally, and have it not make us angry. And some things will. I understand that there's exceptions to this. I understand that there's a time and a place to say something. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the 95% of the things. I'm not talking about I'm not talking about the 5% where it's appropriate to do all this stuff. I'm talking about the 95% of the time where it's not appropriate to do all this stuff. Like, you can just hear something and disagree with it. And you don't have to take it personally, and you don't have to, like, get angry publicly. Like, you should be aware of, and you should probably rumble. I like that Brene Brown term. You should probably rumble internally with why it provokes those emotions in you. So you should be aware of the emotions that something provokes in you, but you don't have to, like, publicly act on those. It's okay to just disagree with something and just know. And you don't even have to, like, change your opinion of the person you disagree with. Like, you can just simply look at somebody and be like, I disagree with that. I like this person. They mean a lot to me. I've respected a ton of what they've done. I've respected a ton of what they've done. I just disagree with that. And that's expected, isn't it? Like, that's normal. That should be normal. That we would just look at something and be like, that wasn't for me. Yeah, no, I disagree with that. I thought about it. I listened to it. I understand where they come from, and I just disagree with it, and that's okay. And just do what you will with that. Either file that somewhere useful because that thought process was helpful. That disagreement may produce some good fruit somewhere, or just file it away, like toss it in the mental trash can because it's not. You disagreed with it. It's not useful to you, so I'm just going to toss it away. Like, I don't have to leave a comment. You see what I mean? I don't have to leave a comment on the person's post telling them how much I disagree with them. I don't have to, like, lose respect for them because they had one moment, one post, one teaching, one conversation. I assume that I would disagree with people all the time. I assume that would be normal. And I just don't, I don't know. I felt like maybe we need to give word to that. Maybe somebody needs to say that more. Like, it feels like one of those things that probably shouldn't need to be said. But when I watch our behavior, I think it needs to be said more. You can disagree with stuff. I hope you can disagree with my stuff and simply chalk it up to, I didn't like that episode. I didn't care for that video. I disagree with Marty about this idea. I hope that's true. You should. You should disagree with things and just be able to, like, just disagree with it. And I'm sure that a ton of people do. I'm sure that a ton of people are doing this appropriately. But I'm still surprised at how many people have to send the email. And I read the whole email and I'm like, they spent time They took time out of their day to craft that 6-paragraph letter explaining all the reasons why I'm wrong. And I don't know why. Like sometimes, and again, sometimes it's truly inquisitive. Sometimes it's like somebody has questions or clarifications. And sometimes it's genuinely like somebody's like, I want to share with you this perspective. And sometimes those efforts actually do shape me. They do change my perspective. Like sometimes when this is done well, again, that 5% of the time when it is appropriate to voice a disagreement in appropriate channels, in appropriate ways that challenge and stretch and build us up. Like there's so many reasons why you would do this. And when it's done well, it's effective and helpful and constructive. But then there's everything else where it's like, those 6 paragraphs were just written to simply belittle me, to make me look like an idiot, to make that person feel like they were smarter, I guess. It didn't change me at all. It didn't help me. It wasn't constructive. I've never quite understood that. I've never understood the person that has to leave the comment to just simply let you know how wrong you are. Sometimes, very rarely, sometimes it's helpful and appropriate. But you don't, like, you can just watch something and not leave a comment. Because I'm not trying to like be like, I got this all figured out. I don't understand it because I don't think I've ever left like a negative, like maybe like years ago when I was super younger, but I think I could count them on like one hand when I was like in my mid 20s. Like I've never instigated disagreement in a comment thread. Sometimes I've responded to disagreement. Usually that's a poor choice, by the way. Just let it go. Just let it go. Just don't respond. But that weird, I've just never understood. Like I can just disagree with something, and if I disagree with it, I usually just move on to the next video. I had somebody that just loved our podcast, right? Just loved it. Just were writing me all the time, like really too much so. They were like they were writing me almost too often, telling me just how much they loved everything. They loved everything. And then like I guess I kind of stopped hearing from them, and I recently wrote to them to just check in on it and ask them a couple things. And they were like, "Oh, I stopped listening to your stuff because you had that one episode." And I just found that so weird. So one episode out of 200, and this has happened multiple times. Multiple times people would say, I've always loved your stuff, but episode 200 and whatever. And it makes me pause and say, what is that? What is that thing where like you've had complete agreement, which already makes me go, that's weird, that you would agree with and maybe that's not true, I don't know. But then there was one episode. Wouldn't you expect there to be episodes where you were like, I didn't like that one. I didn't like that one. I didn't like that episode. I didn't like that video. Wouldn't you expect that? And you would just, chuck it into the trash can. Chuck it into the I disagreed with that column. There should be stuff in that column. There should be. That would be normal. And I hope this video is not coming across as like some snarky passive aggressive. Like I am literally genuinely wanting to just have a conversation about it's normal to disagree with things. We should expect that. That should be a normal part of any relationship, of any teacher that we have, or influencer, or whatever, podcast host, preacher, mentor, professor, there will be things that you're just going to disagree with, and that would be normal. And the healthy thing to do would just be to know how to take that and categorize it and respond correctly and keep going. And this isn't about listening to my podcast. I don't care. Like there's a million reasons why you would stop listening to my podcast or not like my videos. They're just not for you. Okay, that's cool. There's no reason why everybody should know. My content, the things that I create and produce, they're only going to be for a certain kind of people. I get that. It should be that way. It will not be for everybody. And people will come and go. But there's a weird relationship that we have with disagreement, where because I disagree, I have to cut off relationship. Because I disagree, I have to completely disengage. Because I disagree, I have to send you the email. Because I disagree, I have to leave the comment. Because I disagree, I have to respond. Disagreement is normal, and oftentimes, most of the time, no response is necessary. None. And true. It is true. If I disagree with something enough, I eventually do move away from it. It's true. I think that's normal too. I think that's a healthy way to respond to something that you consistently disagree with enough, you consistently have enough disharmony with, you eventually go in another, that's normal. What is not normal is like leaving the nasty comment, writing the angry email. There's a time for that. It's not never, but that's happening in our world. And it's not just about me. It's not about me. I see it on everybody else's posts, Facebook, Instagram. I hear about it from all my other friends and pastors. We have a weird relationship with disagreement. Disagreement should be a normal experience. We should know how to deal with it and categorize it and how to keep moving. It should not demand a response out of us. We should wrestle with our emotions. There are a million things that we should do. I think you guys know what I'm talking about. Like, I feel like I'm doing a poor job communicating this, but I think you know what I'm talking about. There are appropriate, healthy responses to disagreement, appropriate considerations, reflections. And there's even a time to respond and have a conversation in appropriate ways. But we have a weird relationship in our social media driven world with disagreement. It's weird. So let's make sure that we're seeing people and listening to people and hopefully practicing empathy, like literally. Let's make sure we're doing that, because I think a portion of this, maybe even a large portion of what I'm reflecting on, comes from the fact that we just don't feel like we're seen, that people are hearing us, that people care about who we are and what we experience. So let's make sure we're hearing everybody. Let's make sure we're listening and understanding people we don't agree with, okay? Let's do that. I think it'll help. I think it'll help make us more emotionally resilient. And if we're emotionally, like if we're more healthy emotionally, I think maybe we'll start acting out on these other impulses less. Because we'll have less fear, less insecurity, and it will drive us to act less like idiots. And then let's make sure that we're always checking ourselves. Like, why am I about to post this? Why am I about to respond to this comment? Is this comment, is this post, is this response, is this passive-aggressive GIF, is this going to produce any kind of good fruit? Is this about me, or is it about helping others? Is it going to be constructive? Remember Paul's words in Corinthians, everything's permissible, but not everything is constructive. Everything is permissible, but not everything is beneficial. Do the things that are constructive and beneficial. I don't know. It's just the thought of the day. I hope it doesn't come across as self-centered or passive-aggressive. It's just a thought that I've been mulling over, and I keep seeing it every time I jump on a social media platform, and I just keep watching things going, you didn't have to say that. You didn't have to post that. You didn't have to reply to that. Or sometimes I'll see things and I'll be like, that should have been an email. That should have been a private conversation. I should not be watching this. I see that. I should not be watching this interaction. This should be the appropriate space for this is somewhere else over a cup of coffee between these two people. They shouldn't be doing this in public for all of us to like witness. But we're kind of doing it on purpose so that people will witness it. Be aware of that. Be aware of that. Let's do that less. It'll make the world a better place, and it will help us be more like Jesus. So anyway, just a little curiosity. Be self-curious. Be self-reflective, and see where it takes us. Okay? It's my thought of the day. And if it's not helpful, if you disagree, just reject it. Just toss it in the trash can and wait for the next video that will be out next week. How about that? That's good. If it's helpful, good. Use it. May God bless what it does to help shape us and inspire further conversation. If it's not useful, just let it go. There you go. Okay, everybody. Some thoughts. If it helps make us better. Amen and amen. Until the next time, we'll see you on the next video, everyone. Okay? Talk to you then.